Hey there, I'm Dr. Christy Gibson, and this is a series I'm doing called Hot Takes on Cool Topics. This time we're going to talk heated rivalry. So first off, let's shout out to a Canadian series with lots of Canadian talent and a Canadian budget. So Jacob Tierney did an incredible job converting a Canadian book into a cinematic masterpiece. The world seems to agree. So I'm not going to get into the acting of Connor Storrie and Hudson Williams, although that is pretty phenomenal. I just wanted to talk about the storyline and why I think it's really blown up. As a person who works in trauma therapy and has studied attachment theory, I think a lot of what's going on for both of these men are corrective emotional experiences. So some of these experiences are those that they're creating on their own. So if they decide to trust, if they decide to take a chance, if they decide to do something different and it works out, then that kind of changes their assumptions about the way the world works or the way that they are in the world.
Like, for example, taking a chance to knock on somebody's door, or taking a chance to out yourself to somebody who's a celebrity, or being super honest with your parents after not having disclosed that you were gay or queer. And a lot of these corrective emotional experiences are happening around vulnerability. So choosing to be vulnerable rather than just kind of having this overtly like hot, intimate relationship, it evolves into something where both of the men are more willing to be authentic, to be more vulnerable and open about their emotions that they're having towards each other, and to just invite a lot more tenderness into the relationship. So I think a lot of us are responding to that ability to be vulnerable and that kind of a risk that really paid off. I'm also hearing some pushback that a lot of the fandom is coming from women or people in female bodies, whether they're queer or straight. And there are a lot of theories. I mean, the actors have kind of said themselves that maybe this version of sexuality and comfort is more accessible and more relatable for those of us that have been through traumatic and harmful relationships. Another scene that's playing out is how a situationship is turning into an actual romance. And I think a lot of folks who are stuck in situationships or stuck with emotionally unavailable, often men, are hoping that things will turn around. And without getting into too many spoilers, I just think it's also important to look at the trauma behind both of the men's storylines. And to be clear, I don't think they're trauma bonded, but I do think that their trauma plays a role in how they show up in this relationship. So Ilya's trauma is not subtle. He's born into a Russian family where the patriarch and his siblings are not particularly pleasant to him. He feels used. He feels disconnected from his relationships there. And to be gay or queer, because he's bisexual in the series, would be illegal. And so for him to be out meant that he would never be able to return home. So it makes sense that he's looking for a secure attachment figure. And for somebody who was raised with insecure attachment, as Shane was, you know, that possibility of being a secure attachment within relationship is a potential for him. So while Shane does have supportive parents in the books and as portrayed in the show, he has autism, he's of mixed race, and there's a lot of both internal and external pressure to succeed. He's very passionate about the sport, so he's quite competitive. So there's a lot of not necessarily traumatic events that happen, but just the story that he tells himself about who he is and what the world is like can create distress and internal suffering. This shows up in like panic and meltdowns and when he's, you know, second guessing and kind of running away from things. What I think is so compelling about the series and the books as written by Rachel Reed is the complexity of the characters. So not only do these men have these like backstories and complex internal dialogue and processes, but so do all the secondary characters, especially the women. They show up in really supportive ways, but each of them are different and have their own backstory. So yes, I think our minds are getting a lot of artistic beauty in terms of the physical health of the main characters, the cinematography and the way it's lit, and these beautiful scenes. I'm so obsessed with the cottage and where that was in Muskoka. I mean, it's just a stunning building, and backdrop for these kinds of things to happen. And the character development went from being a little bit distant, a little bit playful, to this yearning, to something in the end that for a lot of us felt very satisfying, and we're excited to see more. And I can't make a video about Heated Rivalry as a Canadian without giving a huge shout out to Canadian talent. And that's not just the actors and all of the production team, but oh my gosh, the music. Bringing out Feist, bringing out Wolf Parade in these key moments, and bringing in this feeling that as soon as you hear that song, you feel like you're completely immersed in that emotion all over again. I mean, that's really what traumatic memory is this like an association to an event, and what the music does is it's creating these positive associations. This is the difference between triggers and glimmers. So as soon as you hear one of those songs from Heated Rivalry and your brain just takes you back to that scene, that's a glimmer. We all need those right now. I'm really looking forward to the next installment in the series. They're going to have the same director and actors, so the caliber is going to be fantastic. From what I hear about the books, there's a lot more enticing story to come, whether they follow the Shane and Ilya storyline or the Scott and Kip storyline. There's just a lot more development and yearning and story that we can get super engaged with in the future. And yeah, just to think that this was the thing that was helping us in this moment when a lot of other things are hard. And I don't think it's a dissociative response. I really do think that we are all enjoying collectively these corrective emotional experiences. Thanks, Jacob and Rachel and Connor and Hudson.